Okay, so we're not too far from the hour to begin on time. I will turn my video camera on so that you can see me in person. I think this is important in times of confinement. We don't get to see each other as much as we used to, and so you can see me. I'm at home, and I suppose many of you may be at home. So I will wait a few more seconds and get started. I see the attendees counter is still increasing. Okay, so let's get going. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. Its title is How Location Data and Analytics Help Governments and the Public Sector Fight Against Coronavirus Impacts. The agenda is quite rich. We have a story about decision making in times of COVID. I will begin with mutual introductions. I will go ahead with decision making in critical times. Location analytics to the rescue, point 3. Then a demonstration on operational proximity. 5th, how far can location analytics decisions making can go? I think that's an important question. And then available solutions to get you going if that's what you'd like to do. And finally, a Q&A session. Please submit questions through the chat panel for the Q&A at the end. I will give you more instructions on that later. Okay, so hopefully I can see the attendee counter stabilizing. So who are you? You and your peers today. Last week, we sent a survey to those that had registered. You were in the hundreds. So the statistics we show are of last week. Since we have many more guests, so you may not appear directly in the statistics. Please do not feel left out. Now, the responsibility of the attendees today, we have 25% developers, BI analysts, data scientists, consultants represent 33% of the public, and then managers for 42%. Organizations represented local government or associated agencies for 50%, central government 25%, and private industry, private companies. And then the data platforms that your peers are using are BI platforms mostly, 64%, then SQL databases, and then 18% other. So we ask these questions to know more about you and to focus on most relevant subjects in the 30 minutes that we take of your time, that I hope will be well spent for you. So what countries are represented today by the attendees? We are proud to have a quite large number of countries. You come from Europe, UK, US, Canada, Latin America, Middle East, Gulf countries, India, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. And today you have global company, and I think we all have a common interest. Now, on our side, on the Galigeo side, we have Vincent Deschandon, who's product manager. He's at home, just like me, in the Paris region. And Christian Tapia, myself, business development. We both have been with Galigeo for more years than we care to admit. Okay, so let's get on now with the core of the presentation. We show here a partial list of our clients. We have circled the areas where we have clients that are relevant to today: healthcare, police, security, public sector, transport, and government. And if you want to know what our relevance and legitimacy is on location intelligence and location analytics, we can refer you to Forrester Wave report dating to 2018, where Galigeo was among top 8 location intelligence platforms. Okay, so planet, we have a serious problem that will not easily go away, generating unprecedented stress and hardship at all levels, families, communities, countries, and most economic sectors. Our health system and their staff have been overwhelmed. No country was fully prepared to resist such a quick and unexpected pandemic, largest since the so-called Spanish flu. Pictorially, different official agencies like the World Health Organization and Johns Hopkins University have created dashboards that to show the viral progression in time, those infected and related fatalities. Represented through proportional symbols and heat maps, we immediately see geography at work, a world map and locations, how the virus moved from China to other parts of Asia, Middle East, to Europe, to the Americas, and to the Southern Hemisphere. We see the relevance of maps as an obvious way of communicating crucial information, and in particularly where. There's no more to information, there's more information than where, but where is central to communicate in this case. We communicate about pain, but we must do more. We need to find solutions. In January, the pandemic was limited to Wuhan in China with 11 million people. Today, it affects the whole planet, 7.5 billion people. Communicating geographically about the pandemic is necessary, but insufficient. Governments, local and central, must propose solutions, must guide and decide what to do. Citizens ask, how and where is a pandemic going to affect me at a local level? What can government do to minimize death and hardships? The hard answer is in information and science-driven decision-making. Collectively, these are known as the 5 W's, the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why. Knowing where is essential today. The subject then becomes one of decision-making based on available information, so to best prepare and act at local levels. At Galigeo, we believe one part of the answer comes from information processing with location analytics. So what's new? IT has always managed information. What's the novelty? Well, location is not just any data. It has shared geographical semantics. It is like speaking of famous people. A common useful language that everyone knows. If I hear New York, I know it is a city, a large one. If I give you a postal code, you may not know where it is, but you do know it indicates a location to help postal services deliver goods. Location characterizes the who, the what, the when, and the why, and even itself, because it provides practicable proximity information. So what is new is to have a platform to blend the 5 W's with practicable proximity to represent information in space for problem solving in general, and in particular, now when a virus runs rampant, proximity is important. Now, what are the 3 main sources of data that location analytics blends? You have business data up here on the side. Your business data, these are events, emergency calls, hospital beds, ICU beds, anything that's core to your business. Contextual data describes the surrounding environment, socioeconomical characteristics, population, pandemic statistics, etc. And then mobility data from devices, volumes, directions, durations. And all that is blended by location analytics to provide a visual representation. With location analytics, when you blend business, contextual, and mobility data, just to name those three, you get three work levels. You get a visualization level, you get an analytics level, and you get an operations level. Each level has its own set of characteristic features that I can display here in yellow. Zoom and zoom, bidirectionality, drill down, special selections, choroplasts, custom themes. I can go on with analytics, heat maps, drive time, time series, hierarchies, clusters, flow maps. And then on operations, geocoding, data input, collaboration, annotations, itineraries. All these features are important and are part of what we believe is a successful location analytics platform. Beyond these features, the platform has to provide performance, seamless integration to existing data sources, data security, user friendliness. It should not be a tool just for geo-trained people. We believe that's very important. When integrated, it motivates user adoption of the underlying platform. And it can leverage existing GIS investments. For example, if you have ESRI maps, it should be able to connect to it and then leverage those maps. We're now going to demonstrate the Galigeo platform for location analytics. We will use pandemic related data to illustrate how it can help with question C above. That question was asked during the survey. Demo case is inspired by an article that appeared in The Guardian last week because there was an unexplained resurgence of COVID cases. The script of the demo is looking for pandemic trends in time, establishing correlations with socio-economic data, population density, transport occupancy, and getting a sense of public hospital exposure. So having said that, I will hand off to Vincent. You can take on now from here. So please.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. Okay, so let's jump into the analytics part of this webinar. So what we can observe is what I'm showing in this initial view are the total number of COVID-19 cases by arrondissement in the city of Montreal, which are there displayed as colorless. By just taking a look, there we get the patchwork view and it's hard to see a pattern. So we can go a little bit further already by adding a heat map of these new cases. So the heat map shows the density of new cases, but with more granularity. But still, it's not possible to find any trends right here. But as we have the data aggregated by week, that means that we can run the time series segmented by week. So there, the animation starts at the week 13 of this year, corresponding to March 17th. So for the first few weeks, we can observe the new cases spreading across the whole city, then followed by a relative slowdown. But as we are going to see in the incoming weeks, we will be able to highlight there using our time series a resurgence of new cases. And this resurgence comes from the northern districts of the city. And it seems to be spreading to the southwest on the week after, which in our case corresponds to the last week. So that's really interesting. And at this point, after finding this insight, we want to go more in depth and add new data to our analysis to try to find correlation between these new cases and the reason why they are happening. So first, let's quickly filter the data to only show coronavirus cases for the last 2 weeks. So the 2 weeks that are interesting us. Okay. Now we're going to add some contextual data that I've been able to find on Statistics Canada Open Data Portal. So I've pre-selected the data that seemed the most interesting for us there, such as the median revenue by household and by district or the population density. So I've turned on my layer of information So there you see the median revenue by household by district. And you can immediately see a trend where the lower income households are located in the north and the richer ones are located in the southwest. I can use a quick filter mechanism again to only show districts with the lowest income by households. And if we overlay again the new cases for the past 2 weeks, we can observe a correlation between these districts and the resurgence of people getting infected by the virus. And we can even go further and add another layer of contextual data, in our case, the population density. So it's shown as stripes right there. So we can overlay nicely the 2 layers of information on top of each other. Let's also select another base map right there. Let's pick a darker one so we can see better what's happening. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is also quick filter there the population density districts to only keep the one with the highest density, population density. And again, it's leaving me with the district in the northeast of the city, as you can see right now. So it really seems interesting because there is a correlation for this resurgence, as you can see right there, which is based on the population density combined to the lower income households. And so it gives us insights about which population are currently being mainly infected. And so where are the areas and population at risk right now? So now that I have, okay, so you see the heat map correlations with the 2 KPIs that we have set. So now that I have overlaid these different data, I can use the fact that they are spatially located on the same place. And even if they do not share a common attribute besides their location, we can use the 2 of them to create on-the-fly metrics for my analysis. So for instance, we could calculate on-the-fly metrics to evaluate the probability of getting infected if you live in this part of the city, so regarding the district that you live on. So let's, for example, create something, I would say, quite simple for the sake of this demonstration. So a ratio between the new cases and the population density. So we can quickly merge, I would say, combine together the attributes from the 2 geodata that we have set on the map to create a new measure. And then we will be able to interact with this measure on the map. Okay, I'm all set with my formula. So I'm going to validate everything, and we are going back to the map view right there. And so if I click on the district, as you can see on the right panel, you have access to this new ratio that has been calculated. And what we are going to see right now is that if we click on some of the districts, on the north, on the southwest, that you have likely 16 times less chance to get sick from COVID if you live in the south than if you live in the north, which makes, I would say, a huge difference. And of course, there, based on what I have calculated right now, I could reuse this new metric to create a new layer of information and to map it on the map, rather than just having it available there in my right panels alongside the other attributes. So now, which other location data could I use if I want to strengthen my analysis, if I want to go further? So I've been looking at other data like transport data, and I found on the Transport Montreal website some interesting data about transportation that could help us here, and especially data about the occupancy rate of public transport. So there I'm importing the file that I've downloaded, and while I'm doing that, just a few words to say that these data are not relative to the pandemic period, but it will help us understanding in a normal situation if there are transport lines that are busier than the others. So I added this new data on the fly. You see that there I have access to new attributes. And I will be able to use these attributes to create my new layer of information. So first, let's clean up the scene a bit by turning off some layers, so it will be easier for you to see what's going to happen. Okay, so, and I'm down there, I'm going to add the occupancy rate to the map. So the tool lets me choose which type of representation I want to add. And just by doing drag and drop, I now have access to my new layer of information. And again, if I use my filters, I can highlight that the busiest lines, they seem to be located in the north and the east of the city. So there, the insight and conclusion that we can drive from what we have been able to see is that lowest income populations, they are working in fields that requires them to be present physically. And after a few weeks off, because of the confinement, this population had limited income, and they probably went back to work using transport lines because they had no car available. And this is part of the population that do not hold a car. And nobody knows if they were wearing a mask or not. And because some were already sick, and the fact that they live in more crowded areas of the city, it did not help. And so it created a new outbreak that rapidly spread across some part of the city, and for instance, where these people work. So there we have been able to see how location analytics in just a few minutes, by overlaying heterogeneous layer of information, is being really helpful to understand the situation, especially to detect areas and population at risk, and then allowing us to draw data-based conclusion. Okay, so what can we do next? What we could try to do now is analyzing this population by selecting them using spatial filters. So what I'm going to do right now is activating another useful layer of information which displays the public hospitals. There we don't have any metrics like bed occupancy, bed available by hospital, etc. But of course, if we had the right data, we could plot that on the map. What we are going to do as well is display the location of each infected persons instead of showing a heat map. And of course, for the sake of this demonstration, the location there have been anonymized. So when we have a lot of data points like this, using spatial filter is really helpful because it helps us to segment the patients, but it could be whatever you want to represent, because you could segment it by locations and proximity. So for instance, there I'm going to do a what if scenario where I'm going to select only the persons that are living in a 2 kilometers radius. It could be a 2 miles radius, of course, from any hospitals. And you see there, just by targeting the hospitals on the map, it automatically creates a nice distance area that is showing around the location I've clicked on. And then it selects me all the patients that are falling within the area I have selected. And so this way, I've been able to segment the different patients and by extensions, the different population based on their access to care and proximity to hospital. And then after that, of course, I could extract the result to that to Excel to do more operational reporting, for instance, or even print it to PDF or send it to officials. I could also do, on the contrary, select, extract, or filter the patients outside the hospital catchment area. And that will help me determining the most vulnerable populations that have limited access to care. And what is important to understand there is that driving this kind of spatial analysis highlight the fact that the hospitals in the north are going to be the ones in tension, and it can help you predicting the bed occupancy rate and potential saturation of some of these hospitals there in the incoming days or week in the city of Montreal. So what we have been able to see during this demonstration, that thanks to the location data, we have been able to perform data visualization. We have been able to get an overview of the situation, and then we went beyond using analytics and operational to drive insight using location analytics. So it will be it for me for the demonstration, and Christian, I give you the ball back.
Okay. So I will continue. We will use pandemic-related data to show how it can answer questions A and B displayed. These questions, again, were part of the survey that was sent to you last week. And they are about more complex possibilities, possibly. Okay, so what we did in order to illustrate this is we did unsupervised learning we use unsupervised learning techniques to find natural groupings and data patterns. Now, these are clusters that are formed such that objects in the same cluster are similar, and objects in different clusters are distinct. The data source is by French administrative departments once a day. And the input data is only from hospitals, not retirement homes. So I'm going to go through the list here: available ICU beds, intensive care unit beds, hospitalized patients, number of hospitalized patients in intensive care units, the incidence of disease patients, the incidence of hospitalized patients, the incidence of hospitalized patients in ICU, and the incidence of recovered patients. The word incidence is important here because it reflects new events and cases, and data scientists will understand this very well. Now, the question here is, what can we discover? So the unsupervised learning algorithm generated 7 groupings and corresponding to data patterns. I will not go into the detail here of how this was done because it's a subject all in itself. The point here is that classification and geography together are useful. The virus appears and evolves in time. The 7 groups then organize the 5 W's for better decision making. The table here describes the 7 groups from 1 to 7 on the left, and you have green meaning a no problem situation, with dark red being a serious problem situation, what we call a saturated and oversaturated ICU units. So I think the interesting groups today are the ones 1, which describes a normal hospital situation with COVID, where COVID has limited impact. Group 7, which is oversaturated IC unit situation. And I find particularly interesting the point 4, the group 4, which is mixed, a pivot point, which means the situation can either improve or worsen. I find this middle point particularly interesting for decision making. So this is a relatively complex map table to see. So the question is, where is this all happening? What is the geographic effect? Does it confirm what is happening on the field and what you eventually hear on the news or what you see yourself? Okay, so this is important maybe at the local level where you work to understand and compare. Now this is what it comes out. When we did we did a time series and we kept only 3 maps of France. One beginning of confinement in March 17, that's when the government said you all stay at home. The worst day, April 10, and end of confinement, May 11. So with colors from dark green to dark red to reflect severity. The outlines you see are the French administrative departments that I spoke of. So you see the northeast of France and Paris regions were highly affected. Confinement began with group 5, a rapid increase in ICU unit demand, then peaked on April 10th, and on May 11, it was the end of confinement, where groups 1 and 3 dominated. Now, we're happy to actually confirm that this, the French government published a map which is similar to this, and we got confirmation through our own calculations. So this is how far it can go. You apply data science, and then you can extract the wear factor to understand where the situation can go. Okay, so that's where the core of this demonstration, this presentation ends. I like to speak about solutions that Galigeo provides in this case. And so if you like to try out this, note that Galigeo has a platform that a location analytics platform that it's not limited to COVID. It is applicable to the 5W use cases. Galigeo has its own cloud and on-premise location analytics platform, and that platform is instantiated on top of SAP BI, Cognos, and Salesforce. And as I said before, we have a Nesri connector for those that have already maps implemented in Nesri. And we also have an API that connects to any data source, so that if the list of products that are here or platforms that are here are not part of your list, we can use this Galigeo API. Okay, so having said that, I think we've reached the 31st minute of the presentation. I think we're pretty much on time, but we had hopefully some questions. Vincent, it's off to you now. Yes, before we go into the question, just note that you can try our solutions 30 days for free by looking at our website, and you can just download the software. Okay, so I think that we are pretty much on time here. The 30 minutes are over, and I'd like to thank everybody for attending today's webinar, and we look forward to staying in touch with you. Okay, so thank you again for accepting our invitation to this webinar.
Yeah, thanks, Christian, and thanks, Guy, and let's keep in touch if you have some needs. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day.